How's it going, everybody? This is Tim, and I have Paul with me. He is the owner of Burn Academy. He's an old friend of mine. This is the Buns and Thighs podcast, and also dueling with the podcast that he runs as well. We're both going to contribute content to the same video, and you'll see it in multiple places. So that's cool. So I own PT&C Fitness. If this is your first time here, I own a gym over in Colorado Springs, uh, and I'm a personal trainer as well as Paul over here, and we're going to be talking about some points of interest that we think needs to get out into the world. So, Paul, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Paul Blackburn. I've been a certified personal trainer since 2013. So this will be 11 years now, going on to be a personal trainer. And I've established a website and I use an app to train online, and it is called Burn Academy. You can go to the website, theburnacademy.com, if you're ever interested to just kind of check out anything. I've competed in two different competitions. The first one I did as an amateur, I did both vegan on a vegan diet. So it was pretty interesting to do that. I did my first one on a high carb, low fat, and wound up winning that one, and then did a pro show about 6 months later and did a high fat, low carb on that one. So that was very interesting. But yeah, that's just pretty much a little bit about me.
Well, that's Paul, and he's a pretty
Yeah.
awesome guy outside of fitness as well. So I've prepared a few questions that the way I like to do a podcast is I like to ask the co-host or the other person there questions and then feed off of kind of what they say in response. Um, what, in your opinion, is the fastest way to lose fat? Now, I'm not talking about the most sustainable. I'm talking about just the fastest way to lose fat.
Honestly, extra cardio and intermittent fasting. Those two things I've highly recommended. I've got a five, not five step, but five protocols to follow for my clients in order to help them lose weight on whatever diet they're currently on, because it's so hard. Everybody has different needs, and the things that they can consume are different, because some people can't have gluten, or some people just can't go on a keto diet, or some people are on a vegan diet. So it kind of changes what you can do for them. So there's usually five things I tell people to make sure that they figure out and follow in order to lose weight. So intermittent fasting is definitely one of them, and just extra cardio to burn calories is another thing to do. But yeah, those are the simplest things that I'll say is the fastest way to lose weight.
Would you advise that they also lift weights during this?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So you should still be lifting weights all the time. You should still be making sure that you're stressing the muscles, because the biggest thing that I tell everybody all the time is, in order to burn fat constantly, you have to have muscle, because muscle is a fat burning tissue. And even when you are sitting at rest, you will burn more calories with the more muscle you have. So lifting weights is a high priority anyway.
I also like to throw in some vocab every now and then, just to educate some of the viewers. So there's something called, and this is me talking directly to the viewers, and we actually do have a few right now. There's something
Nice.
called the basal metabolic rate, your BMR, and that is what you cost to exist in a coma. Even less so of a state, just what you cost to exist in space cellularly. So how many calories your total cells in your body cost per 24 hours. Sorry, per 24 hours. My BMR, where the last time I checked, is around 2,200 calories every single day. Most people that I meet that don't work out, they're somewhere between 1,100 and 1,600 calories. It depends on if they're male or female, their age, their amount of just everything, how much they eat, how much they sleep, how much they move. A lot of things go into your BMR, but it is a set number per second. So whatever your BMR is, that is what and by the way, I totally agree with Paul here on everything he said. I would like to add a focus is to if you're trying to figure out if your goal is to lose weight and you're trying to figure out what you should focus on, raising your BMR and also raising your activity level. He said it as adding more cardio. To my clients, I say it as adding more activity. It's the same thing, but adding these different stacks onto your caloric burn every single day in different categories is definitely what you should be focusing on. Raising your BMR, that's by adding muscle, adding bone density, adding lean body weight, and eating more, eating less in certain intervals, sleeping more, less stress, and that will help the BMR, which you immediately can't control, but as you add lean body weight, it goes up. So that's your first goal. Second, add more activity in your life, meaning walk around more, park further away from the store whenever you're trying. Just add more distance, more movement. Go join a men's soccer team. Doesn't matter. Be the one to help your mom with the groceries. Like be the one to offer to do things for people. Adding activity, and then also your day to day already just passive. You don't even think about movement. That's a third category, and trying to make that expand as well. So I really see it as like three different categories of caloric burn. And whenever how much you burn is lower than what you eat, that's fat loss. And so that's kind of my answer to it. It was a little convoluted, but I think we got there.
No, yeah. So yeah, because I'll tell people pretty much the same thing. Like, start small too. Don't jump to like. See, so I'm like, hey, you got to do some extra cardio. Well, don't jump to like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Start low, because you're gonna have to you will eventually adapt to it. So you will have to increase what you do. So I would say, if you're not used to doing any kind of cardio at all, start with 10 minutes as like a warm up, maybe even, and then maybe 10 minutes at the end if you want. And then after that, maybe you can do 10 minutes in the beginning and then 15 minutes at the end, and then maybe 20 minutes at the end, or maybe in your free time, maybe if you've already done your 10 minutes beforehand, maybe later on you go on like a 15-minute walk or a 30-minute walk. But start small so that you have room to increase what you're doing the longer you go, because your body adapts real quick.
A lot of people have an aversion to cardio, and they also there's so many different sources of information, and 90% of it is wrong out on the internet, TikTok, all these marketing schemes, and everyone's saying do cardio, do copious amounts of cardio, do no cardio, only do lifting. It's all it's all them basically just trying to get you to get views and try to get you to buy something. I've learned that the powerlifting community, the bodybuilding community, the hypertrophy community, the CrossFit community, everyone says that their way is right. It's the best way to lose fat, it's the best way to gain more power, it's the best way. If you're trying to become a well-rounded human being and trying to be fit, all of them are actually correct. I practice, I like to tell my clients, practice different camps for a month. Just, hey, why don't you lift some heavy crap and see where that takes you. Have a structured, well thought out program, but go towards a powerlifting regimen if that's what you like to do, because adherence, or how much you want to actually go to the gym in the first place, that's the first thing that matters. Same with cardio. If you hate cardio, 1% higher than what you're already doing. So if you don't go for walks, if you don't go for anything, start with literally a walk to the mailbox and back until that feels like, hey, I feel like this is working. Or hey, I feel like this is not terrible. Then go to the end of the block. Then go around the block. Then go for a quarter mile. And then once you are at walking for a mile and you feel like, hey, this is a daily routine, this is great. Throw a little jog in there, like a 2-second jog, and just 1% higher every time like every single day, just 1% higher. And in 100 days, you're going to be looking back and being like, wow, I have adapted to this new ability of mine, and my body reflects it. And so that's kind of how part of a personal trainer's job, and Paul knows this very well, is convincing people to do things that they don't want to do at all.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because you should also look at like what you're already doing. So like if people are already pretty active and they're not losing weights, like how do you try to get them to lose even more weight? And with that, like if you're already doing a ton of cardio stuff or you're already walking a lot or you hike very often, it's just like, well, we don't want to increase even more because then that's a lot more time that you probably don't have because you're already probably spending the free time you do have doing the hiking or cardio or anything else you have. Some people don't do any cardio at all. And so like for me, I hate doing cardio. I I absolutely hate it. And when I was competing, I hated doing cardio then, but all I did was walk at an incline. That's the most cardio I did was walking at an incline or maybe sitting on a bike for 10 minutes. But like if you can just do something that you're either not used to doing for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, again, that's more than what you've done before. So that's a little bit more energy expended. And that's another way to do it. And as a trainer, I'm also trying not to cut calories too quick either. So I want you to be able to eat as much as possible to save that metabolism as well. And that's why I think cardio is important, whether you want to do it or not, but it's also great for your heart and your lungs to do a little bit of cardio. And I'm not like saying run or jog or get on an elliptical for 30 minutes. Like a walk at an incline is fine. And you can increase so much on a treadmill. So, like, say you don't really care for cardio, start with the 10 minutes at like an incline of 5 at a speed of like 2.5. Then, if you wanted to, you could increase the incline, which will increase your intensity, which will increase the amount of calories burned, or you can stay at that incline of 5 and then go from like 2 to like 2.3 and then 2.5 eventually and then 2.7 and then maybe 3 without changing the incline. And then maybe when you get to 3, you can increase the incline from there in case there's so many ways to make it as easy as possible to increase the amount of energy expenditure you're doing without really going overboard. So if you hate cardio, I mean, there's ways to make it a little bit more enjoyable, but sometimes you really do have to do things that you don't want to if you really want good health benefits.
So, something you said stuck out to me, which was if you already do a bunch of hiking, you shouldn't do more hiking. I totally agree. That there's a common case scenario where someone is skinny fat, but they do copious amounts of cardio. I'm talking like 15 to 20 miles a week in running. They're running well, even more than that. They're just running 5 miles a day. They're trying their best, and they're also starving themselves, and they're not losing any weight because their body has adapted to that amount of stress. My answer for them would be, hey, sometimes it's good to take a break and solely go for muscle gain. Muscle gain, raise your metabolism because their muscle mass is so low, that their BMR is so low that they have to eat so little to even lose more weight, that they have to raise their metabolism, raise their muscle amount, and kind of step back from the cardio, go back to doing for someone that's so wild-eyed towards cardio like that. No cardio would almost be impossible because there is a fear of stopping it. So 1 mile a day rather than 5 miles a day would be a great step back, and then focusing on the gym and eating correctly and gaining mass. So to the viewers that are watching right now, I would like to comment the balance between cardio and muscle mass gain is my approach with my clients to the perfect way to do basically become fit. I call it fat management, reducing your fat to a healthy fat percentage so that you're not having to do what's on TikTok, which is running 10 miles a day every single day and eating 800 calories a day. But there's also different approaches that work. So I just wanted to throw out my approach. Paul, what's your comments?
So I try to use cardio not as a last resort, but I try to use cardio as like an accessory in a way.
Gotcha.
And another thing is when people have to go into like fewer and fewer calories, that becomes almost not unsustainable, but it becomes very difficult because you're dropping your metabolism.
Miserable.
Yeah. And I've had a client before who ate so little that eventually she couldn't even think right. She sat on the edge of her bed and she couldn't make a decision because she had maybe 500 calories altogether for a week.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so because she was really trying to lose weight. Now that is a huge issue, and
Yeah.
it's very drastic to cut your calories that much. Like Tim said, the BMR is literally the base you should have to live. That's not including movement. That's just sitting there. So if your BMR is 1600, you have to eat a minimum of 1600 to function. And then if you're going to decide to move and go to work, you're going to need another 200 to 300 more. And then if you decide to work out and you want to kind of build some muscle, probably another 200 to 300, 500 more on top of that. So your calories definitely increase.
Yep.
Another thing is I've had someone in the past who ate so little and then she wanted to start working out and do some things like compete. She ate a little bit more and eventually lost weight eating more because her body was in starvation mode. And once it had the calories it needed, it didn't need to hold on to the calories anymore. She was able to expend it, and her body got used to burning the calories she was eating, and it became better at, the efficiency of her body became a lot better. So she wound up losing and burning fat, eating more than what she used to eat. It's another way of increasing your metabolism as well, because then the more you eat and you are working to build muscle, you will build muscle, which will increase the BMR, which will also increase how much you burn. So it's building muscle is the way to go, especially for a sustainable weight loss. Cardio is just a temporary thing, and that's just to burn calories and to kind of making sure that your heart and lungs are doing better. And it also helps with vascularity a little bit more and oxygen transportation to the muscle. So the more cardio you do, the better recovery you will have, and the faster recovery you will have, because you'll be more efficient at transferring and or transporting oxygen to the muscles. And so that's another reason why cardio should be important to you. Now,
Hey, do you mind if I add something on that?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
He brought up a great point. Um, the more efficient that your vascular system is and your circulatory system is, the more efficient you can recover. The faster you can recover. Because think of red blood cells as taxi cabs. Carbs, which is glucose, oxygen, ATP, fatty lipids, all of these things are riding inside red blood cells, and they're going towards the muscles that you have microfiber toward, so that they can build more muscle. And you have a muscle building signal that has a time limit. It's about 3 days. And you're trying to get as much food into that food, meaning oxygen, glucose, all protein, all of the things that the muscle needs to create more muscle. You're trying to get as much in there as possible. And if you have constricted veins, if you have veins that aren't that great and a heart that's not that great, and you have high blood pressure, you're just not efficient, and your blood's trying to fix other things while it's also trying to build muscle, it's going to not work as well as if you were optimal. And so that is something I highly value cardio for, which is just straight up health. And if you're healthy, you can build muscle a lot faster than if you're not healthy. And you can become healthier faster. I say healthier because that's relative. It's actually very specific, but there's a lot of categories. You can become healthier faster than you can get abs. You can mend your heart and you can mend your vascular system if you're on the right track. 6 months later into your journey, let's say a 300-pound man is working out, he's doing the stuff, he's eating right, and within 6 months, his heart and veins and lungs are a lot better. Even his brain power is a lot better than 6 months ago. And so his rate of muscle growth and his rate of fat loss will be higher due to the fact that he got closer to optimal health just internally, not just what's on the outside, which is what we all care about, and being strong and being healthy and live longer, but feeling good and having our circulatory and just our networks just coinciding and meshing and doing well. That is huge.
yeah. And another thing, an addendum to what I was saying earlier about someone I knew who started eating more and wound up losing fat. She was eating more, but based uh, on her macros, so the what she was eating was a little bit more balanced and not just one sided. So one of the biggest things that I'll mention and talk about with the 5 little principles that I try to tell people to follow to make sure that they can lose weight on anything is macros. Macros are very important to kind of understand, because if you're eating too much fat and carbs and not enough protein, which is what a lot of Americans eat, then you're going to gain weight because you're eating 2 energy sources, and then you're going to start storing one of them at the same time. And you need to start eating protein at a little bit more protein, probably, because you're probably under eating. And I would say just track what you're eating now without changing anything to kind of see the macros, which are your carbs, fats, and proteins. And then after that, maybe increase your protein and then pick an energy source. Because if you're eating 2 energy sources, you're going to continue to gain weight.
There's a lot of different formulas, I guess, or what people say. I know Men's Magazine says a certain thing. What is your method of finding someone's protein requirements?
Usually, I'll find out their calories first. And then what has been very successful for my clients and me is if you're trying to lose weight, you're anywhere between 30 to 35% protein based on the amount of calories you're supposed to have. So like if we come to the conclusion that you're supposed to be eating 1,800 calories to lose weight, 30 to 35% of that should be protein. Just it depends on the goal again, because if you're going to start losing weight, it's probably going to eventually maybe start out at 30 and then go to 35, or it could wind up just being straight up to 35, and the carbs and or so the carbs would probably be 30, fat would probably be 35, and then the protein would be 35.
I did it on a calculator real quick. So you said 1,800 calories at 35%, which
Yeah.
is for the viewers 1,800 calories times 0.35, which is 630, divided by 4 because there's 4 calories per gram of protein. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's yeah. For protein, I think it's 4 calories per
And
gram.
then that would be 157.5. Okay. 157.5 grams protein per day.
Yeah.
That may seem like a lot to a lot of people. I know there are some crowds where over 30 grams, it seems like a lot. And they just think anything over that is horrendous. I like that. I like that method a lot. It makes a lot of sense. It also kind of complements, it agrees with my method as well. I take someone's lean body weight and we test to see if their lean body weight in grams of protein uh, per day is optimal. Some people require more, depending on, not require more, but can handle more. Like for me, I gain muscle really well and I can use protein really well. Some people, their lean body weight is about it. But I kind of make that range at 100% of your lean body weight. That in grams of protein per day if you want to gain muscle. If you can eat more than that and still gain muscle and not gain fat, then go for it. And I've also heard other methods where it's your goal body weight. I don't really like that one because if someone is 350 pounds and they're trying to get down to, they're trying to lose 100 pounds for health causes only, and they would be eating 250 grams of protein per day, and they already have an eating disorder, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, you got to be careful with that.
yeah.
And kind of just based it on how the person's going to eat. But like you were saying earlier, some higher protein is actually recommended. And so the older you are, you kind of need a little bit more
Oh yeah.
protein to fuel the muscle, because once you're like past 30, 35, you're going to start not losing muscle at a rapid pace, but the ability to build muscle becomes a little harder, and you need to sustain that with extra protein. And the
And they're actually the crowd. The crowd over 60 is actually the ones that eat the least amount of protein in the
and
world.
they need even more
Yeah.
protein the older they get. So I trained I can now officially say I've trained a 98-year-old, almost a 99-year-old. He's going to be turning 99 in March.
Nice.
And yeah, and he's awesome. He can still bicep curl with 20s, and he can still shoulder press with 15s and pull down 90 pounds. The dude is, I would say, still fit. He walks without a cane. He can still see. He can still hear. Just
He's
finding
my
he's got,
goal.
yeah, yeah. He was a physician in Atlanta for a while and a boxer when he was younger. So that cardio probably really helped a lot to keep his heart strong, because that's the best way you're going to build your heart, which is really important. And I mean, obviously, lifting heavy weights is going to be very taxing on the heart anyway. So if you're doing that, can handle it, then again, cardio is an accessory. If you're lifting right, you don't need as much. But yeah, protein is very important to get. A lot of people, like I said, undereat protein and they need more than what they're consuming. But again, you not only do you need to make sure you're eating enough protein, but you need to make sure you're only eating predominantly one energy source. And carbs is an energy source and fat is an energy source. You need to pick one. It's not a fad diet thing like keto. Yeah, it's high fat, low carb. And then paleo, I think, is what, high carb, low fat, or at least Atkins is similar to that.
Paleo is basically anything that you can gather or hunt.
Okay.
They've kind of warped it into like a low carb diet, but they can eat potatoes all day.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people wind up in one meal having a really high fat, high carb diet, and that is very problematic. So you need to be conscious of what your meal consists of, and not to eat too much high carb, high fat in one sitting, and especially throughout the day.
So I have a another question for you that I got asked, or I noticed that is a common stigma. Even though a lot of things have gotten better, common knowledge has gotten a little smarter about fitness. It's not entirely healed, but people are starting to wisen up after the TikTok wave and the Instagram wave of do this in 30 days and you'll be ripped. Like, yeah. But um, how to specifically lose belly fat? How will crunches reduce your belly?
So I know Jeff Nippard a long time ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, mentioned a study, and it was one out of like three different studies that found they did bicep curls and then they did cardio. And then at the end, they kind of measured, I think, the arms and found that at least more fat was pulled from the arms after doing the bicep curls and then cardio. You cannot spot reduce, but that study kind of touched on technically spot reducing by doing bicep curls and arms before cardio. So if you want to try and do abs and crunches
That's
and
interesting.
all that stuff, and then do cardio, I would at least recommend it. Because I don't think it's going to specifically, like I said, spot reduce, but at least there's a higher chance of, because I think what was mentioned is you're stimulating the muscle. There's a lot of blood flow to that muscle. There's not blood flow in fat, but there's a lot of blood flow in muscle. And then after, I guess, pulling up the muscle, like POOL, pulling the muscle, the blood into the abs area, and then doing cardio, you probably have a lot more oxygen and other stuff going into the abs, and you could be eventually pulling fat from the torso. But yeah, I don't think that just doing crunches is going to, well, I know that just doing crunches is not going to specifically just reduce the fat around the abdomen. It just kind of depends. A lot of people's adipose tissue, your bodies are all different, and where you want to pull from fat is always different because where you store fat is always harder. I will say though that the more muscle you have in an area, the easier it is going to be to lose fat in that area. So like
Hmm.
if you have a really weak core and really terrible abs and obliques and stuff like that, you're probably going to store a lot of muscle there or fat there. But if you are, because you're not going to see someone who used to bodybuild with super strong arms, super strong chest, have very fat chest and very fat arms. You're gonna see the arms are getting bigger and having a little bit more fat, but they're gonna lose fat there quicker. And obviously they don't ever work abs, so they have a little bit more of a gut. So what I would say is work your core, especially the obliques and the abs, and then do cardio. And hopefully after a few months or so, you should start to pull a little bit more fat from that area since you've got more muscle there.
Okay. I'd like to add something about hormones. Uh,
Yeah,
so I usually I've never heard of that study, and I definitely would be interested in reading it because that's I never say that anything is correct, especially in science, because science is this living, breathing organism. We find new things out all the time, and
definitely.
so when someone and I've noticed you're very good at this too, about talking in research says instead of this is correct. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that about you. Um,
Thank you.
so my understanding is that hormones, someone's hormone profile completely decides where they store fat and where they pull from fat in what order. And there's a few more, but testosterone, estrogen, glucagon, and insulin. Those four are the major ones that really decide where basically the balance between those levels decide where it's being pulled from, where it's being stored, what body shape you are, like how there's different female body types, like someone who is obese. Let's say there's three different women: a apple shaped, a pear shaped, or uh, trunk style. Those are three different hormone profiles with obesity being there, and every single one of them weighs the same. People think it's genetic traits. Uh, most genetic traits, not most, actually, I'm sorry, some genetic traits are really learned behavior and hereditary through behavior, not just through DNA. And things that they eat, things that they drink affect their hormones and things like that. When if someone would ask me, um, can you spot reduce? The immediate answer would have been no. But if there's new science out there that's saying that it does pull from you know same location in like a slight way, I that's actually good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I recommend going to Jeff Nippard's like YouTube or whatever as well, and just try to search for that video. It's like I said, it's probably like well, I'd say it's definitely probably 4 to 5 years old, that video. So you might have to look for it, or at least just search on Google or YouTube like Jeff Nippard spot reduce or something like that, and maybe that video will come up. But there was 3 studies, and 2 of them proved you cannot spot reduce, but this other one did. And so I didn't quite look at the factors, and
Do you think that possibly it was just the order? It might. I'm not saying it's not true. But I always like to play devil's advocate. Do you think that maybe the order would have been from his arms in the first place, anyways, whether or not he would have done leg press before running, and it would have came from his arms, or they might be onto something, and we just haven't studied it in a while. We only trusted a couple studies, and we're like, no, you can't spot reduce, and and then we thought it was finite, and that's always a mistake. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, Brad Schoenfeld definitely proves that some things are definitely not finite.
Yeah.
And I think even another one off topic, I think he had done one recently looking into stretching, and can stretching be hypertrophic and
Hmm.
intense stretching? So that'd be like
Yeah.
very hard, but
Yeah.
intraset
Stretching is
stretching.
stimulating. Sorry. Go ahead.
Right. So intraset stretching, I highly recommend doing. That is a technique that you should definitely use on a machine. Do you know what intraset stretching is?
Is it stretching during the workout,
Yeah. So
like in between your sets?
so the best thing to do would be like calf raises. So maybe you do your calf raises and you do 15 reps, and then all of that weight on your shoulders, you go into a stretched position and hold that stretch for 30 seconds. And then immediately when you're done, you reduce the weight by about 20%, and then you immediately start your reps again. and then you hold after that 15 reps into a stretch for 30 seconds under all of that weight. So you are holding a stretch in a very weighted position,
Yeah.
and then you keep reducing it for however many sets. The first time I ever did that, I was so sore at night, it woke me up because I was trying to pull my foot back and it hurt. And then I tried to push my foot forward and it hurt. And I tried to leave it in the middle and try to get a little bit
Pain
of,
is everywhere.
yes, pain in every position. So interset stretching can be amazing because you're going to build a ton of muscle working that fullest range of motion. And even in the most stretched position, which is your weakest position, if you're holding a lot of weight in that spot, you will definitely build a lot of muscle. So I think another one study that they kind of looked into was, can you build muscle in a stretched position? And yeah, if you're holding a lot of weight in a stretch and you mostly work in that zone, like if you're doing chest presses and you're at the very, very bottom touching your chest and you do like a few pulses, that's going to build a ton of muscle that way.
It'll also fix your posture.
Yes.
So I actually do with most of my clients, all my clients, actually, all of my clients, I sneak in corrective exercise. Like they don't care about it at first, until they see the benefits. Then they're like, oh my God, this is magic.
Oh
But
yeah.
but beforehand, they're like, yeah, I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you have forward shoulder. Like, hey, you have an overpronated left foot. Your hips are wonky, and you lean forward when you walk. And so as we're working out, I call it a stretch flex. I've never heard it called an intraset flex stretch,
Yeah,
intrastretch. Yes.
intraset stretching.
But I call it the stretch flex method, where you go to your limited range of motion. I call it limited because if someone has forward shoulder, it's really hard for them to put a bar behind their back. Or if someone has an overpronated ankle, or both of them overpronated, it's really hard for them to rotate their knees out inside their hip sockets into a deep squat. So if you go into your limited range of motion and you find out where you can't comfortably go any further into perfect form and perfect range of motion, then you hold a weight, and then it allows you to push yourself into it deeper, not through you normally being able to do it, but you getting into just, a degree more into uncomfortable zone, and then you do a lift with that. I call that the stretch flex method. And this is to the viewers, your shortened muscle, because there are shortened muscles and there are lengthened muscles in someone that is posturally deformed. So anybody that does not have perfect posture is posturally deformed in some way. And that means that there are tight muscles in the front or in the back, wherever you're leaning most towards, and they are elongated in the back. And that means the back ones are weaker, they're stretched out, and they're really comfy in that lengthy position and weak. And then these chest muscles, I'm using forward shoulder as an example, by the way. These chest muscles are shortened and they're really comfy in this shortened position. So if I wanted to, say, do a fly and then lean into that fly, let it stretch me more so than just a range of motion, pausing for a moment, relaxing, letting it stretch me with a weighted stretch, and then tensing before you do the flex, tensing first in that stretch, and then continuing the workout. That's called a weighted stretch or a stretch flex position. But it will teach the muscle in the back to shorten and in the front to lengthen, and it will grow in the correct length. And the day I found that out and started applying it to my clients, I leveled up as a trainer.
Yeah.
Just period.
I was going to say, you need to be doing that for every rep anyway. You need to fully go into that stretch position, feel the stretch, because whenever I'm training somebody.
So you don't agree with quarter reps?
There is a place for quarter reps, but that's not how you should be training normally.
It pissed me off when I saw stuff on Facebook or wherever I saw it. It was saying like quarter rep. There's no reason to go into full range of motion. Quarter reps are the only way to actually stimulate the most amount of stimuli. I'm like, like you're the reason why I'm a trainer. To say no to you.
Yeah. So doing quarter reps from a stretched position and then to like doing that there is a place for it, but probably after the set of full range of motion. So like maybe you
Al-
do 10 reps of full range, and then maybe you do 2 to 5 reps of partials, and then
Also,
boom,
if you're
you've got it.
trying to deliberately shorten the muscle that's lengthened, quarter reps are definitely. But that was kind of assumed before I said before. But
Right.
I want to know your opinion on the whole, like the quarter reps are the god of all workouts, and they should only be done. And I'm just like, you guys are stupid.
No, no, I know with like Olympic lifts and performance lifts, like if you're in a sport, sometimes doing a partial to get better at that particular movement
Yeah,
in that
like if you
particular
want to
spot
jump
of the
higher in
movement.
basketball.
Right. Maybe doing some partials is fine. And then, like I said, in the stretch position, doing a few partials is going to be the best. Um, but like I said, going full range of motion is going to develop the full muscle. So I always say full range equals full development.
Yeah,
If you don't do that, you're not going to develop the full muscle.
I tell people that their abilities to do full range of motion will shape their body. If they can go into a perfect pull up, and there's like many different types of pull ups. If you can do a perfect pull up with your elbows behind a lat oriented pull up with your elbows behind your spine, you're pulling up, your chest is puffed up, you're in perfect posture while you're doing it. You can do 10 of those, you're going to look like you can do 10 of those. If you can only get the top of your head up to the bar, you're going to look like you can only get the top of your head up to the bar.
Yeah, you're ignoring the rest of the lat when
Yeah.
you're not going that full range of motion. So you're underdeveloping the rest of your lat just to try to do a partial, and that can lead to other imbalances. So that's why I try to say work the full range of muscle or full range of motion to work the full range of the muscle in order to develop the entire muscle. Um, and so, yeah, I always say just go all the way down, flare the lats, get a good stretch, and then from the stretch, you squeeze that lat to pull the next joint over down. So I know I know this is again kind of like off topic from the fat loss stuff, but you
Hey,
you have
I'm
to
cool with talking about Star Wars Legion on the show.
yeah, don't get me started on that.
Like,
But yeah, the you've got to use the right muscle to pull the next joint. So like if you're trying to work your lats, you don't want to pull your wrists. You want to pull your elbow. If you're trying to work your
yeah.
biceps, you try to pull your wrists because that's what that muscle is used for. So you have to kind of know where the insertion and the origin of that muscle kind of is to understand where to pull from and how to squeeze that muscle. So yeah, that's a whole nother fun topic to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Like you can literally think your way into using more of a different muscle just by focusing on it. It's weird.
Yeah, because
Just through concept. Knowledge is literally power in working out.
yeah, because you need a neurological stimulation to the muscle for it to be used and to use the ATP in order to generate a contraction. So it's like if you think about the muscle, and the muscle mind connection is a game changer. A lot of people just do the movement without thinking and just try to, pull as heavy as they can, get all the way down, and then pull as heavy as they can. They're not thinking about what muscle to use and what to pull and trying to stretch and flex that muscle. Because the whole point of working out is to go from a stretched position to a contracted position. That's it. Like all you got to do is just be that simple. But you also have to think about the muscle trying to stimulate. So if you're doing pull-ups again, you have to think about flaring the lats, using the lats to pull those elbows down, still squeezing the lats the entire time, and then using it to stretch, feel a stretch. Because if you're not neurologically connecting your brain to that muscle, you're not stimulating it as much as it could be.
So we started this show with one big question, which is what is the fastest way to lose fat? And I also mentioned that not the most sustainable. And I said that for a reason because I knew that just because we are good personal trainers, we would get to the sustainable one. And I wanted to show them that there is a difference between the two. Um, I think there's four categories that we kind of touched, three categories, and then one obvious one that we didn't touch on, which is sleep. But
Yes.
uh, the most sustainable way to lose fat is gaining muscle mass, and that is its whole own category with depth and knowledge and stuff. We could do 10 podcasts on just that category. Um, Correct cardio. Don't run 10 miles if it's the first time you ever ran. One, you're gonna break your ankles. Two,
Yeah,
you're
you're
gonna
gonna hurt
hate it.
yourself.
You're gonna hate it and never want to do it again. And so that
Right.
then it's useless. Um, and nutrition is another category. Making sure that the biggest thing that I focus on first, and Paul said first, was protein. Make sure you're getting your protein, and then focus on your micronutrients. Have a good. You cannot. Carbs are not the enemy, but too many carbs will make you fat. It's a balance, and it also depends on how much activity you're doing, and then sleep. If you don't
And
sleep,
then, yeah, so, well,
go
I would
ahead.
say an energy source.
Yeah,
So, yeah, carbs can be bad if you're also including too much fat. But like I said, I've done a competition with a high carb, low fat diet and had all the carbs I wanted um, in my specific macro
would
range.
you agree that
If I went,
you gain muscle faster if you are on carbs?
well, yeah, because carbs are what your body wants to use for energy
Yeah.
first because of the sugar. And so that's why you can build more muscle with a high carb diet than you can a high fat diet. But
Can I say
yeah.
something?
No, 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 no.
I come over your house sometimes. You're eating ice cream.
Oh yeah, dude, ice cream was the thing I would eat all the time. I would have
Oh,
1 to 2
this dude
pints.
has 2% body fat. He's just like ice cream.
Yeah, I'd have 1 to 2 pints of Ben and Jerry's a day sometimes.
And done incorrectly, Ben and Jerry actually died both of diabetes.
Ah, well, that
So
makes sense.
that's the major difference. Like he's over there eating ice cream, they eat ice cream, but the way that Paul works
So
out, they did not. And
yes,
if you treat it right, you can have good things, and it doesn't have to be this evil thing that you have to feel bad about and hate yourself for all the time.
right. And another thing that I usually talk about is nutrient timing. That is a huge, huge part of if you're trying to build muscle or lose weight is nutrient timing. And your best bet is to have as much carbs around before and after your workout than any other time of the day.
Yeah.
Because your body utilizes energy to work out. So then your muscles are depleted of sugar by the end of your workout. So that's the best time to have carbs because you're going to absorb it
Especially if you're
faster.
diabetic.
Yes, if you're diabetic, the best time to have all those carbs is around there. We're not a
Yeah.
doctor though, so don't take advice from us on
Not a
that
doctor.
specifically. So yeah, talk to your doctor about that. But for the most part, you become insulin sensitive after your workout because you've expended all that sugar. So it's the best time to have the sugar because your body is going to absorb it
And you're
easier than
starting to
any
build
other
muscle.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'll go straight to that muscle. And that's why you want protein in a protein shake because it's going to be easily digestible and get through the body faster and recover quicker. Yeah,
So,
and
oh,
no,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Go. Well,
I was gonna go to the next step. So if you got more to say, keep going.
yeah, no. So leading into the transition, I was going to say there's 4 things I ask my clients every day, especially if they're a little short on energy or they're not feeling good or they're stalling in their progress. The 4 things I ask them is, did you eat enough? The second thing is, did you drink enough water? Because if you're also not drinking enough water, a lot of people think that they're hungry when they're really thirsty. Another thing is stress. Cortisol is going to make you gain weight. That's another thing, and break down muscle. So you don't want a lot of stress. And the last thing I ask is how much sleep did you get? Because that is one of the most important things. There was a study done on between 5 hours of sleep and 7.5 hours of sleep. And over the course of the study, the people who slept 5 hours gained, I forgot exactly how much weight, but they gained way more weight than the people who slept for 7.5 to 8 hours. So your brain is needing sugar with the less sleep you have, and so you're going to start craving more when you don't have enough sleep. So you're going to start eating more, and that's just more time that you're awake to eat.
And you
So,
also won't gain as much muscle if you don't sleep. You
right?
build you build a
You're
lot
not
of muscle
recovering.
during your sleep.
Yeah, you recover. You flush out toxins. You recover your muscle. The hormones that are released when you're sleeping is amazing for recovery. So yeah,
That's
you
actually
are
the most common offender is lack of sleep. You can get them to do everything right, but their lifestyle literally won't change no matter what you do, and you get someone that's used to 4 hours of sleep a night, and they're eating perfectly, they're working out, and because they're working out more than they're used to, and they're also have their highest stress day job, it's starting to deteriorate them because of their 4 hours of sleep every night.
Right. Yeah. I know that the Muscle PhD, on at least his Instagram, he definitely has a little chart or graphic to show you the study and the difference of how much weight was gained when you had less sleep than the 7.5 hours. So I highly recommend getting 8 hours. And I mean, another study done showed that if you get like 5 hours, you're like 3 times more likely, or I forgot exactly the number, but you're more likely to have a stroke or a heart attack with the less sleep you have.
Yeah.
So get sleep. It is important. It is probably one of the most things you should prioritize over everything else.
Before we wrap up, Paul, do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
No, no, yeah. Uh, Start out slow. Don't overdo it. Don't get over your head early on. You've got to give your body a chance to adapt. So start out slow, see how it's going, because you'd be surprised. A lot of people who go from nothing to just 5 minutes of cardio, they'll start to see a difference. They'll start to feel that difference right away. And then maybe after like a week or two, then bring it to 10 minutes. And then after that, maybe 15 minutes. And then if you don't want to increase time because you don't have the time, if you're walking on a treadmill, if you're walking outside, just go at an incline, start that. And then that's just, you've got to build slowly and incrementally. And that's the best way to be sustainable and just keep asking for advice from either like from Tim, big time, or make sure you look at some studies if you need to.
I also know that this isn't something you just do for 60 to 90 days and then that's it and you're fixed. This is something that is, I know people say this is a lifestyle. What does that mean? That means you do it for the rest of your life. And it's not as terrible as people assume. It's actually highly enjoyable and you reap so many benefits from it. Someone I've heard multiple people say, I know a guy that worked out every single day. He was fit as a fiddle, and then he got hit by a bus. So that's why I'm not going to work out. And my response to that is, so you would choose to have a lower quality of life for the time that you are here, and you cannot control how long you're here, but you can control your quality of life. And so, are you saying that he did all that work and then he died and all of it was wasted? His quality of life was much higher because he felt better every day. He had more confidence. His hormones were balanced. His personality is affected by being fit in a good way. Like it's his quality of life in every single aspect is affected by this. Just having this practice in your life, it literally will change it for the better, and there's zero way it won't. That's my entire spiel to people who literally are just against it whatsoever and saying, "Oh, no, I'm not working out." Even and also, I hate this one too. I'm too old to work out. You're the best age to work out.
Yeah,
It'll help you so much.
I train an 81-year-old 3 days a week, and I've trained a 98-year-old once. But like I said, he was a boxer when he was young, and he worked out his whole life, and he is doing amazing. And I think if you go to a nursing home or if you go to hospice and you see the quality of life of the people who never worked out versus the people who did work out, here's another just real life example that I have real fast. There was a guy at the gym that I train at right now who had a form of MS, who should not have been walking at his age, but was still able to walk and function because he played soccer when he was younger and did a few of the leg workouts that they needed to do there. And a doctor who did hospice or worked in a nursing retirement home, he stated that the number one thing all of the people in that home stated was that they wish they had worked out their lifetime because the quality of their life would have been way better near the end. So I
Yeah.
highly recommend, uh, even if it's 30 minutes a day, if it's 3 days a week, it's better than nothing. And I would say find a trainer who knows what they're doing, because I've had clients who worked out without a trainer and have hurt themselves badly. And with a trainer, they've worked out way safer. It's way better. And like I said, training starting now, there is no too late. It's you need to start. Well, there is a too late. There's no too early, I should say.
Hmm.
Definitely start immediately, because
This
you're gonna be thankful.
that actually alludes to one thing I wanted to say to kind of break into the ending of this is it's rare when you find two personal trainers that highly agree on most things. And me and Paul are highly successful personal trainers. and we are literally nodding our heads as each other talk, and that is a rare thing because we didn't learn from the same people. We learned completely separately. We learned the correct things, and now we're making a podcast together. And there's a reason why we agree. If you get 7 personal trainers in the room, someone's going to try to be the loudest, and everyone's going to get pissed off because no one agrees.
Right. That's so
So,
true.
I would love for you guys to keep watching this podcast. We're gonna wrap it up here. If Paul, you go with that?
Yep, that's fine with
Okay.
me.
So we are going to continue to making it. We're going to continue making episodes. We're going to continue talking about very important things that have to do with your fitness, and you can learn from us and create your own workout or buy the workouts that we have, and just come along for the ride. You're gonna learn a lot of things. We're entertaining. I know today was a very informative podcast, and this is actually our first podcast together, and I think it went very well. So, Paul, do you have anything to say before we go?
Keep watching. Every time that we put out a video, definitely be prepared because we're going to try to give you as much info. I try to be as academic as possible and try to show studies or talk about the studies or talk about what I've seen in real life that works. And so if you want no BS, talk to us because there's no point in giving you just there's no point in us trying to make you feel happy about yourself or what you're doing.
Right.
We're here to give you what we know works so that you achieve your goals. So
Someone who's
yeah,
just trying to make you happy is not a good personal trainer. He's trying to be
no,
he's trying to be a paid buddy. That's it.
right.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end it here. Go to personaltrainerandcompany.com for my website. Paul's website is
Theburnacademy.com.
there.
You
You
can head
go.
there and download the app. You can subscribe for $15 a month and you get so many things. Just check out the website.
All right. Peace out. Thank you very much.